Talk of the Trollway spotlights Mount Horeb, Wisconsin's unique artists, entertainers, hobbyists, and personalities.
Good morning, girls. Hey, Lenny. Bella.
Janelle Holmstrom didn't set out to make soap when she got her first goat.
Helga.
Things just sort of worked out that way.
Hi, girls.
And now that she's been creating the bars in small batches for about 2 years, she sees inspiration for clean hands just about everywhere she goes. Ingredients might be found here, perhaps here, or maybe down there, or over in that building, or in this shop, maybe that one too, and just about anywhere else. While many of these places supply the ingredients for her artistic and organic creations, the main ingredient comes from a handful of goats on her farm, just down the road from the village of Mount Horeb. I'm your host, Gary Schutz, and on this episode of Talk of the Trollway, Janelle introduces us to Bella, Helga, and the others as she explains how her process has been one of trial and error, with an emphasis on the trial.
All right, Bella. I got my first girl, Bella. She's my oldest. She's the matriarch. She's still the leader. There's definitely a hierarchy amongst the goats, and Bella's still my top girl. Sometimes I call her Bossy Bella. And she had her 2 kids, and the ball just kept rolling from there. All right, Bella. All done. Good girl. We got Bella because I was on a nutritional quest for raw milk. Raw milk is a hard commodity to find. All right, girls, out you go. Go, 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 go. Out, out. Very locally, very fresh. And I decided that a goat would be easier than a cow. And I had never farmed growing up. I didn't know anything about it. If my husband were here to comment, he would add that I always get the cart before the goat. I just learn as I go. I read incessantly, but I just learn by doing. That's the best way for me to learn. I figure things out, what's not working, I troubleshoot, how's it gonna change. Even when I make a batch of soap, almost always I tweak something each time. I have thousands of batches of soap behind my belt, but I still think I wanna make it better. And I still work for that. And then with the barn, you know, if somebody's not getting along or they're not eating this right, it's always a learning process. And so we got the goats for the milk. We've had the milk and enjoyed it nutritionally for all those years that she came 12 years ago. And about 5 years ago or so, a friend gave me a kit to make goat milk soap. And I had all the ingredients in that kit except for the milk and the sodium hydroxide, which is lye. And the goat milk was easy. Of course, I had plentiful supply of milk. But the sodium hydroxide scared me. It's a strong chemical. It's caustic, and you have to be careful when you work with it. I didn't know where to get it. I didn't know anything about it. So I was excited about the idea, but I put that little kit on a shelf, tucked away, without immediate attention. And it just kept calling me. It kept niggling at me, and I kept thinking about it. And finally, one day I met somebody who was also making goat milk soap. And they invited me to come watch their process and be involved hands-on, which is how I do things and learn things. And I got really excited. I came home that very same day and made my first batch of soap on my own after making it with them, and I've never been able to stop. I made soap and made soap and made more soap, and for a couple of years everybody got it for Christmas gifts and birthday gifts, and you know, you can only use so many bars of soap in your own shower. And I just all of a sudden realized that I'm having so much fun with this. I can't stop. I can't slow down. There's so many variables. There's shape and size and color and scent and texture, the fat differences. There's so many variables. They're endless, really. For me, this is my art, and it's my passion. And I wake up in the morning thinking what I'm going to do for a soap. I go to bed at night thinking, oh, I have a new idea. I can't wait to do it for my soap. And I read about soap. I think about soap. I don't eat it, but just about everything else is about soap for me. So it's just my fun. And I decided I better start selling it just to be able to pay for my fun. Luckily for me, people love it. My favorite soap is a year or more old. It's like kind of like cheese or wine. They get better as they age. It's absolutely part art, part science. Making soap is one big chemistry experiment. Soap making is a very precise science. I measure down to the 0.5 ounce. The majority of soaps are made with water. Mine are made with 100% goat milk replacement. I have to think about the amount of fat that I want in that end soap. What you feed them makes an enormous difference in what kind of milk we get, how much milk we get, what season it is makes a big difference. This soap has 40% goat milk, which is quite a bit considering it's still a solid hunk of soap. Most of my other recipes have 30% of goat milk. So I can change the percentage of the amount of milk I want. I can change the percentage of the fat that I want to stay into the soap by adding or decreasing the sodium hydroxide, which is the chemistry part of it. Because the sodium hydroxide, when it interacts with the fats in the oils, the butters, and the milks, you get a solid bar of soap. And how solid do you want that is how I play with the chemistry. Do I want it rock hard, probably too drying on your skin? Or do I want it to have some oils that are not saponified, solid soap? The oils are still very much their own fats, and that's what makes the soap moisturizing. So I can control all that. I have so far about 20 recipes that I currently work with, probably about 40 more that I'd like to try. I filter my milk, and I have to use frozen milk to make the soap, or else the sodium hydroxide would burn the milk, and I've done it once. It turns a bright orange, which is not an attractive color. So I freeze the milk. I measure my oils. All of my soaps have olive oil. That is the #1 ingredient I use. And then secondary is coconut oil. I also use a lot of shea butter, palm oil. I use a double boiler to melt the solid oils, mix it with the olive oil, and then I mix my goat milk, frozen ice cube chunks, with sodium hydroxide, make that, and it becomes very hot very quickly, the chemical reaction, and I usually put that in an ice bath in the sink. The ice water is around the pan to help cool, and I stir, and that becomes a liquid slurry. And then when I'm really ready to go, I have everything organized, my molds are screwed together, my colors are out, everything, because once I marry the two, the fats and oils and the milk liquid and the sodium hydroxide, once I pour those two together, the solidification and saponification starts immediately. And I can control that too. I can make some recipes very slow moving. If I want to do a lot of fancy art, like pouring different colors, I choose a recipe that will not go hard very quickly. Some recipes will be like Play-Doh in a matter of moments. So I can control that for the different factors that I want. Some things when I pour, I want them to, like for example, pouring this one, I want this recipe to be a little firmer so I can peak that top and manipulate it. This one I can drizzle the soap on the top. I come back in 12 hours and it's solid. Depending on the recipe I used, I slice it up, and it has to cure for at least, in my book, 2 months. Sodium hydroxide is no longer in the end product. It sounds like this big scary monster, and I wear gloves and safety equipment, and if I drop some sodium hydroxide on me, it will burn. But after about a week, it's neutralized because of the fats. The chemistry of it changes it into an absolutely different, it's no longer lye or sodium hydroxide, it is now soap. I have a totally 100% random and unpredictable schedule for work. Actually, my favorite time to make soap is midnight, when the whole house is at least gone to bed, maybe gone to bed, but at least not needing me so much. Or where they're not going to come in and ask me a question right when I'm in the middle of my hurry-up phase. I have to get this put together. Or when I'm measuring. I like to be by myself. I like to be able to concentrate. I will make soap when I have time. Sometimes it's during the day. Sometimes a customer says, I want soap now, and I think, oh gosh, I don't have time, but I'm going to make it. I make the time because of that cure factor. The only commercial equipment I've used so far and purchased and was so happy that I allowed myself to do was I have a monster immersion blender. It's monster size. Other than that, I'm still working with kitchen pots and pans and a spackling blade for the chop. Stole it from my husband's putty drawer. The spackling blade is a uniform, very thin cut. Works well. I like that all my soaps are hand cut. They're going to have scratches and dents and maybe be a little different each. That's cool for me. I use herbs and spices, clays for coloring as much as possible. I use beer and food purees to scent the soaps and to add other qualities. Beer and soap? The things you can put in soap. I never thought of bananas, avocados. I just read an email recently, somebody put grass clippings in their soap. You can put a lot of stuff in soap. I would say that pretty much everything I do in life is not typical. My kids like to tell me that I'm weird, and I say, well, good, you'll be just like me someday. I do things different. I don't follow mainstream paths. Most people with dairy goats don't have horns. I make it work. That's natural. That's the way they were born. And I make the soaps that are important to me and to better the lives of other people who choose to use my soaps. That's important to me. I don't have a business model. I've never gone that route. I've never needed to or wanted to. Someday I might move more into a business-oriented world. The art it's just ideas that pop and ideas that I see surrounding on internet or pictures. Or when I'm milking the goat. I had a soap named Emmy because Emmy's hairy, big yellow hairy goat, and I put a lot of shredded loofah in the soap. And I called it Emmy. You know, it's just, I get inspired by looking out the window and I see the different greens and think what I'm going to make smell like that pine tree. Inspiration is all around me. I get a lot of inspiration from my goats and the chickens and the duck. I haven't done it yet, but there's also a way to put egg in a soap. So, you know, the whole thing ties, it's all symbiotic and it ties together. And when I chop up the carrots and have extra vegetables left over, it feeds the goats. You know, so we're all interrelated. Living here in Mount Horeb inspires me in so many ways with my soaps because Mount Horeb is a jewel of a little bit of everything. You have your lakes, you have your hills, you have your valleys, you have your blue mounds, you have your greens, you have your beaches. There's just so much here. And there's such a sense of community in Mount Horeb. Maybe everywhere also, but there's a great appreciation for the natural, the homemade, the crafted products. I love my little valley drive. I get to drive around Stewart Park every single day, and I get inspired by the colors and the nature out there. This soap is super fun and near and dear to my heart because my son and I custom designed this. Actually, I stole the little troll guy from the Mount Horeb Chamber of Commerce, with permission, of course, as the troll mascot, and so we put the words around it. This soap has a little bit of everything from Mount Horeb, as much as I could include authentically using in a soap. It has beer from the Grumpy Troll, wine from Fisher King Winery, silk from Cat and Crow. Every bar of soap I make has silk in it, makes it silky soft. Green tea from Telson Tea Shop, olive oil from Bistro 101, lemongrass essential oil from Isaac Soaps, coffee from Schubert's, cocoa powder from Schuland's. So that's kind of a fun little souvenir. Those are all very authentically used soaping ingredients. One of the things that surprises me and actually keeps it a lot of fun is how natural colors work. The saponification process is very hard on most of the natural colors. For example, one time I worked really hard and had this beautiful purple cabbage, dehydrated it myself, then ground it into a pulverized, beautiful purple powder. Was so excited to make my purple soap, and the soap turned absolutely brown, ugly. And so another one is beet powder. It's a neon or magenta, pink. It's beautiful. Soap brown. So that's fun. Every cut is like opening a Christmas gift. I can't wait to cut into each new loaf of soap. Because when I do some swirls or some art, or this is my confetti soap, I just cut up a lot of different, like I might take this green bar, cut it into pieces and mix those up and pour it into another neutral batch, a second stage. Well, each slice is different. Sometimes I have to make myself wait. Depending on the recipe I use, sometimes you should wait 2 days, maybe even 3 before you start slicing. And that's the hardest part. I have about 10 beer companies who order my custom designed soap for their gift shops. People love the beer soap. I imagine part of that is label appeal to them because it's a fun gift for a guy. A lot of people will buy the Spotted Cow soap and give a 6-pack of beer to their gift of choice. But it's not just label appeal. It's a nutritive ingredient that adds, and I sometimes put ground hops in there. All of those ingredients add to the quality of the soap, and they're all used for different purposes. This happens to be a fun little mold that looks like beehive, but my little secret there is it's only bubble wrap, but it makes a fun soap. I have some soaps that I actually pour into physical molds that I pre-purchased, pre-designed. I have one man who likes the cucumber soap. If I've run out, then I've suggested, try this, try that. He says, no, I'm a vegetable kind of guy. And so he will only buy the cucumber pureed soap. I could make a full wine soap. Some people make soaps with only wine as their liquid. The other thing, the silk just makes it soft. That's the biggest surprise ingredient that people say, silk? How do you have silk in your soap? I cut it up really fine, and then the lye helps dissolve it, and it makes the soap silky soft. I make a coffee soap too, and in this one I put actually some of the grounds in addition to the coffee itself. Coffee will actually help make the soap a harder bar because of the water content in it. It's not as fat as a milk. Some people like the coffee grounds because it adds that exfoliation that they like to feel, the roughness. Goat milk, for example, it is on the list of exfoliants. Most people think of exfoliants as something rough, the shredded loofah, the coffee grounds, the poppy seeds, the ground oat. You can feel it. Goat milk is an actual exfoliant because of the enzymes and the proteins in the goat milk will actually turn your skin over and help the cells rejuvenate. That is why most people of the world have heard of goat milk soaps as being wonderful soaps. They have a little notch above traditional water-based soaps. I feel very happy with my product. I'm proud of my product. I love what I do. It's fun. Success is measured by what anyone wants to define it as. People love my soap. That to me is successful.
Coming up on Talk of the Trollway, it could be you or someone you know. Let us know who we haven't met yet. Email talktrollway@gmail.com. Talk of the Trollway runs daily on Trollway TV, Mount Horeb, Wisconsin's village cable station.